For every TurboGrafx fan that has ever lived, one heartbreaking moment has hung like a dark cloud over our lives since 1994, living day to day without ever playing Cosmic Fantasy III. On February 13th, 2025, that dark cloud finally disappeared. Cosmic Fantasy III is now playable on the Nintendo Switch in English, along with Cosmic Fantasy IV. How do lost games from 30 years ago hold up? To find out the answer, stay here for the full review of Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2. Cosmic Fantasy III. Holy S! I am literally dying inside and outside at the chance to play this game in English, something I thought would never ever happen. For a scant few people out there, you probably feel the same, but for the rest of the world, let's get up to speed on what all this means. Back in 1990, developer Telenet Japan released the first in a series of role-playing games for the PC Engine CD-Rom system, Cosmic Fantasy. The hook was that the game's story progressed through animated cutscenes with voiceovers, a very novel concept at the time. A sequel came about a year later, which was picked up for American release on the TurboGrafx-16 in October 1992 by the late, great Working Designs. There had never been a game on the TurboGrafx, Genesis, or Super NES that had what Cosmic Fantasy II had. Almost an hour of animation and voiceovers that were complemented by a full RPG with a compelling story. Not that Final Fantasy or Phantasy Star weren't great, but they never talked, and they certainly never had this. Cosmic Fantasy II became the best-selling TurboGrafx CD game of all time, and if you poked around in the game long enough, you'd find that Cosmic Fantasy III was coming soon. Gaming magazines confirmed this with screenshots and brief write-ups, but the game just never came. Years later, with internet access, fans could finally see the game in greater detail, and learned that there was also a Cosmic Fantasy IV. You could even buy these games on eBay and play them, but without mastering the Japanese language, you could not enjoy the games the way they should be. At the start of the 21st century, a trend began to remake, remaster, and reissue games from the past, of all genres. RPGs had a fair share, so there was always a faint hope for a rebirth of Cosmic Fantasy. More so, when a mysterious game company, Eidia, scooped up the remains of Telenet Japan and began to release those games, such as Valis, on modern hardware. In 2022, Eidia raised our hopes further with the announcement of the complete Cosmic Fantasy series coming to the Nintendo Switch. 5 games divided into 2 parts. Eidia brought Cosmic Fantasy 1 and 2 to the US Nintendo eShop in January 2024, and now the rest of the series is here. Everyone can download it right now and have it saved to your Switch forever. You don't even need to fumble around with messy game cards, which often get broke or lost. What an age we live in. Oh, and the collection cost $26.50 individually. Ouch. So, is Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2 worth the money? Let's find out. If you're unfamiliar with the world of Cosmic Fantasy, I made a video covering the entire series, with spoilers, in 2022. Unfortunately, this was made literally days before Eidia announced the collection, which is why I don't mention it in that video, but it's still worth checking out. I also reviewed the first collection not too long ago, if you wanted to know how that fared. In that review video and this one, there aren't any game-ruining spoilers, so don't worry. The Cosmic Fantasy series is set in the far-off future in the Andromeda Galaxy. The main characters, Yu, Saya, Van, and Rim, are all members of the Cosmic Security Company, a police force that maintains order and justice. Officers of the CSC are known as Cosmic Hunters and protect the advanced societies from invasions of space pirates, while also protecting less developed worlds until those cultures are prepared for first contact. The Cosmic Hunters and all their adventures are chronicled across 5 games. There's also a family of cats and a few robots that tag along. In Cosmic Fantasy III, space pirate Gardo uses a time machine to travel 25 years back in time to stop the creation of the CSC, thus allowing space pirates to plunder uninhibited in the future. Yu, who was known as Cobra in the Working Designs game, learns of this plot and follows Gardo back in time to prevent history from being altered. In the past, on planet Aria, the characters Rei, Daigo, and Mai are students near the end of their studies. Daigo is the man who will eventually found the CSC and is the #1 target of Gardo. Daigo is seen in Cosmic Fantasy II briefly as the Commander, Yu's boss. Rei studies psychic powers, learning how to harness them into healing magic that can be used for good. Mai and Rei are also sweet for each other, setting up for a relationship later, if he's lucky. A subplot of the game involves Nyan, a talking cat who loves a good swindle. He's searching for a rare gem, the Sebelrakis stone, which is also the object of desire of a family of cats that are fine, upstanding businessmen and are in no way involved in organized crime. You control Rei as the main character. There are times when characters switch out, a la Final Fantasy, but basically, Rei's the lead, even though the story revolves around you. Unlike the first two games in the series, there is no overworld map. The entire game is just a giant field with connected areas. The gameplay is very straightforward. Move through towns, explore dungeons, level up, and continue. And repeat until the end. In the field, a battle can happen at any time, but in towns, you're safe. It feels a little weird at first because so many RPGs shift to an overworld outside of towns, so you might be in an enemy zone and not realize it. The game has a dash button, so you can move through at double speed. In towns, you can converse with townsfolk, and animals will often tag along. There are two menus for actions outside of battles. The main menu is brought up with the B button and gives you the option of items, spells, abilities, meaning status, and equip. The second menu is brought up with Y and lets you adjust text speed, rearrange your party, and load back to the last save point. Originally, this was the run button on the PC Engine, and keeping it away from the action buttons makes sense as you don't need this menu as much, and it keeps you from accidentally losing all your progress. When buying weapons and armor, the game is very helpful in telling you who can equip things, how much of an upgrade it'll be, or if you're already using something. This has always been one of the things I hated in some RPGs, that you grind up all this gold, then buy new gear and find out you can't equip it. The battle system is improved over Cosmic Fantasy II. Each character has the choice of attacking, casting magic, if possible, using items, defending, or run away. In the English Cosmic Fantasy I, there was a major error that switched the names of the player and enemies, making battles difficult to follow. But in CF3, there is no problem, I'm very happy to report. For attacks, there are 3 levels which increase in power. You can equip up to 3 weapons at once for this feature. Another complaint about the older CF games were that the spell names were confusing. They still are here, but now have brief explanations in the battle menu, so you can easily know what's for healing or attacking, for one person or everyone, and how much MP the spells use. The battles are very streamlined. The controls allow for moving through at turbo speed. Literally, you can just hold down the A button, and every action and line of dialogue will zip right through. This is great, because there are a ton of battles in the field, and it will get tiresome. Just make sure to keep track of your HP. If you do run out of health, that character is grayed out. As long as one person survives the battle, the others will come back to life with 1 hit point. No need for Phoenix Downs. Also, you get poisoned a lot, but it only affects you in battles. I never thought about how much the battle system can make or break a game, since we all tend to remember the story of an RPG. But the way Cosmic Fantasy III is set up makes it very easy to jump right in and stay there. The graphics in Cosmic Fantasy III are great. If you don't know, the original version from 1992 was a Super CD, meaning it required a special card that added more RAM to the system, or used the Duo system, which had this built in. This led to faster loading and more action on screen. It makes for a much fuller experience over the first 2 games, which were just regular CDs. In battles, every character has a profile that reacts to different moves. There are lots more enemies. They all have more color and personality than in past games. The one drawback is a black background for each battle, but I'd rather take that than lose these features. In towns, there are a few voiced-over lines without animation. These were left out of the English Cosmic Fantasy II, but are in the entire series in Japanese. The voiceovers are much more clearer than the first 2 games.
用が済んでからで構わねえんだ。すまねえが道路の入り口にある俺の家を訪ねてくれねえか。
The music of Cosmic Fantasy III is great. All of the tracks are Red Book audio, meaning it was recorded for and originally played off the game disc, rather than generated by the TurboGrafx hardware. Chiptune music has its place, but in the mid-90s, real CD audio was a huge improvement and a good selling point. And for RPGs that are often slow and repetitive, longer tracks with natural-sounding tones will be a lot less grating on the ears. The game features several songs, not just the opening and ending, but throughout the game. Yan's song, which was featured in Cosmic Fantasy I, now has lyrics and is pretty catchy. and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the game is only spoken in Japanese with English subtitles, which leads us to the nitty-gritty of the game, the translation. It isn't so bad. It seems like the natural reaction is to dismiss this as being AI generated, but I don't think it is. There are a few English names in the game credits, for one, and there are parts throughout the game that feel more natural than how AI would speak. That doesn't mean there aren't a few clunky places. The weapon shop is a good case, where you can choose to buy or quit. I guess nothing's perfect, but it's certainly not a disaster. The level of humor that Working Designs put in their games is not here. There are some lines of text that might make you smile, but nothing over the top. There is also the interesting case of the registration screen retaining Japanese characters. I made a full video on this before, but there are secret codes you can enter for a nice surprise. Wow! Unfortunately, these are censored. Extras added by Airdate are the same as Cosmic Collection 1. You can read the manual, watch all the animation, listen to the soundtrack, see the credits, and so on. The manual is helpful because it comes with a detailed map and item guide. You can call this up at any time in the game. There are also 4 quick save slots, which are much better than the save spots at towns in the actual game. To take a quick detour, I always wondered how much of the English Cosmic Fantasy 3 was actually completed. I was always under the impression that the game was 100% finished. Maybe that was in an old issue of EGM, maybe it was a Working Designs interview I read years later. But only recently I was given some new information. No less from the man who created MagFest. Apparently, Victor Ireland of Working Designs used to sell games to individuals who asked for them. Maybe he still does. When pushed about Cosmic Fantasy 3, the truth from the source is that the translation was finished on paper, but was never coded. You can keep speculating all you'd like, but that seals it for me. We were never going to actually play this on a Turbo Duo. Not even close. To sum it up, Cosmic Fantasy 3 on the Nintendo Switch is a pretty good game. Had it come to the US in 1994, it would have been, hands down, the best Turbo Duo game out there. Better than Ys, better than anything. If you compare it to other RPGs on the Genesis and Super NES, it doesn't quite reach the heights of Final Fantasy VI or Phantasy Star 4, but fits well alongside the long list of games that were good or great, but not perfection. Breath of Fire, Illusion of Gaia, Earthbound, Soul Blazer, Lufia, Shining Force, Crusader of Senti, and many more. Cosmic Fantasy 3 would have, and now does, have a place among these games. When it comes to Cosmic Fantasy 4, the game is split into 2 parts. Gameplay-wise, both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are identical. The menus, battles, controls, and everything else that goes with it are the same. Part 1 focuses on Team Algernon with you and Saya. Part 2 is the adventures of Team Little Fox with Rim and Van. One thing about CF3 is that if it had ever been released in America, way back when, it would have been a little confusing because Van and Rim, aka Babette, aren't in the game very much. You is considered the star of the series. Regardless, Cosmic Fantasy IV Chapter 2 is the true sequel that Working Designs fans would come to expect and appreciate. In fact, Airdate renamed the game from Into the Sea of Light to Van's Return. So what's up with 2 parts? Was it just a cash grab? Well, what wasn't back in the go-go 90s? But having 2 games instead of 1 can focus the gameplay and story on each individual team. The games cross over into each other a little bit, but are mostly 2 self-contained adventures. Together, they make a pretty long game. In Chapter 1, A Prelude to a Legend, you and Saya are sent on a mission to the planet Kazarine, where the Princess Saria has been kidnapped. It also just so happens that Saya looks exactly like the princess and offers to stand in for her as you searches for the real Saria. Chapter 2, Van's Return, takes place on Van's homeworld, planet Airdate. 20 plus years after Cosmic Fantasy II, Airdate has joined the Galactic Federation, becoming highly advanced in the process. Annie, who knew Van from his previous adventure, issues an emergency distress signal. A wizard named Judabel has appeared, terrorizing the planet while searching for Laura's magic pendant, something that Van has been entrusted with since leaving Airdate. All the while, Van is still haunted by the events that took place near the end of Cosmic Fantasy II. There are some major changes in CF4. Both games begin with a short text adventure. This serves to fill in some of the story before the actual missions begin. Between all of the games in Cosmic Collection 2, there were manga and anime releases that added more to the story. Some of those events are mentioned here. The text adventure has a few secrets and a lot of unique animation that make it enjoyable. It does have a grating, looping chiptune soundtrack, and the voiceovers are difficult to hear over top the music. To maneuver through, the game gives you a menu of actions. Look, talk, invig, which I think means investigate, move, for changing locations within the game, and question mark. That's an extra command that changes when needed. If you want to skip this, there is a secret code. In Part 1, enter the name Laser at the Save File registration screen. For Part 2, you need to enter Lasersoft in Japanese. I do recommend playing through these at least once. You're missing out on a lot of the story and high-quality animation if you do. Though it is rather tedious to sit through after you know exactly what to do. After the text adventure, the proper game begins. The graphics are the best in the series and rival some of the best Super NES games. The colors are bright, the floor tiles have patterns, the sprites have shading, background elements are animated. Everything is a step up from CF3 and light years ahead of CF2. The graphics in battles are great, with profiles of each character, like in CF3, and a detailed background this time. The animated cutscenes are almost all full screen, with great detail. The soundtrack is mostly Red Book audio. That is a step up from chiptune, but CD game audio usually means jazzy synthesizer tracks that were beloved in early 90s Japan. But in Cosmic Fantasy IV, the soundtrack is richer, more orchestral, and sounds like real instruments were used. Some sound effects from CF3 are reused. Is that bad? Or a nice continuity? The open world map from CF3 is gone, and things go back to the usual overworld and town/dungeon setup, like most RPGs. The controls are very simplified. The plus button pulls up a menu that configures everything. Items, magic, status, equip, and other. Message speed and lineup order are your choices. You can also see which act in the game's story you're currently in. There's no dash button this time around, but you can set your characters to fast, normal, or slow. I actually think normal is the best. Fast is too fast. Also, the spells and weapons and everything else in battles and towns are easily explained in-game, so there's no guesswork. The game is broken up into acts. You can't really roam around freely, being confined to each area until certain objectives are completed. Battles are completely reworked in Cosmic Fantasy IV. An active time battle meter now controls the pace. It really slows down the game, especially in the beginning, because of all the waiting around for either your party or the enemies to do something. You can choose auto battle, which is good enough most of the time. The battle menu is set up like a cross where you can give commands. It is a little confusing because if you want to change strategy, like healing first and then attack, you have to cancel out and move back to the main menu. Uh-oh! Untranslated Japanese text in the game? It happens more than you'd expect. The towns and dungeons are huge with lots to explore. Some things might feel like a lot of empty space, but you'll have to check every area to make sure you didn't miss anything. There are lots of people to meet and tons of recorded dialogue. It would have been great if these were recorded in English. I'm surprised at how lengthy some of these are. All of the extras Edia added in Cosmic Fantasy III are here in 4 as well. Manuals, quick saves, etc. Not to mention that much of CF4 Chapters 1 and 2 share the same elements and graphics. So I don't want to make it look like I'm giving the last 2 games the short end of the review, but there's no need to repeat a lot of these things, right? Maybe this is a good time to mention there is no Japanese text option, and on the Japanese version, which was released on a game card, not just the eShop, there is no English text there. There is a lot more to Cosmic Fantasy IV than you realize. Playing around with the save file registration screen will give you some fun mini-games. In Chapter 1, enter the name Nyan Tataki to unlock Nyan's Whack-A-Mole. In Chapter 2, enter Video wo kata yo, meaning I bought the video, yo, to unlock Yakyuken, where you can play rock, paper, scissors with the girls, and see them in various states of undress. Wow! You also get to see Van, literally, whole hog. What's worth mentioning is that these screens are all new drawings, not the original graphics from 1994. So Kazuhiro Ochi did some extra work, just for fans who know the right code. When you say, I bought the video, yo, it refers to the Cosmic Fantasy Laserdisc OVA released between Chapters 1 and 2. Nyan actually mentions a lot of different codes you can try out for fun in the Laserdisc, which is why it's important to buy the video. Overall, Cosmic Fantasy IV is a very good game. I would have preferred one seamless adventure. The text adventure and active time battle drag the game down, but the graphics, voiceovers, music, and amazing story make this game a must-play. It looks and plays on par with anything the Super NES had to offer, and Chapter 2 makes the perfect follow-up to Cosmic Fantasy II for the dedicated few who had the game back in 1992. For Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2, here is the final breakdown. Pros: 3 full games. Yeah, you're gonna pay out the wazoo for it, but unlike Cosmic Collection 1, everything here is new and full-sized. Good in-game music. Mostly CD quality audio, and enough tracks to keep things interesting. The original songs are great. Cosmic Fantasy IV got the tone just right. Lots of animation, most of it full screen. A big jump over CF1 and CF2, which was not full screen in many cases. Everything is intact. Except to please the ESRB, nothing was cut from the game. The full series has finally been released outside of Japan. Also, seeing what happened to Van after he left IDEA gives some great nostalgia and closure. Cons: weird pacing. Cosmic Fantasy IV starts with a long text adventure that feels out of place. The ATB meter really angers me, and the cross system is difficult to use. Translation issues. I don't mind the occasional strange words, but there are several places where the text was not translated. Will these be updated and fixed? If you said yes, then you don't know Idia. Price. $52 for 3 games is a better deal than what you get in Cosmic Collection 1. But why are these $26.50 on their own? I recommend waiting for the first sale, which will likely be 40 to 50% off. My final grade for Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2 on the Nintendo Switch, using the patented GTV rating meter, is B. For TurboGrafx fans, it's easy to recommend these games. Cosmic Fantasy III is now my favorite and official best in the series. For people who love to level grind on Nintendo and Sega, you'll feel right at home. Well, I think that's all there is to say about the Cosmic Fantasy series. Except on February 19th, 2025, Idia in Japan just had to get one more drop of blood out of the stone. Idia released Cosmic Fantasy Memorial Collection, which is essentially a Cosmic Fantasy Collection collection. There's a regular edition for 9,900 yen and a special edition for 16,200. Who has the money to buy these games again after they spent a fortune to get them a year ago? And who the heck is Eddie anyway? I think it's just this one guy who bought up some copyrights and outsourced everything. He probably stiffed the young programmers who ported the game and then rakes in all the money without doing any actual real work. Truly the Japanese way, and a plan only Nyan could love.